We're counting down the 20 famous British lunches that have faded into history. These were the midday meals that sustained workers, warmed school children, and filled pub tables across the nation, but today have all but vanished from British life. From potted delicacies that graced Edwardian sideboards to hearty soups ladled in factory canteens, each entry reveals a lost chapter of how Britain once ate at noon. Expect forgotten flavors, surprising ingredients, and dishes that tell the story of class, thrift, and changing tastes. Which vanished lunch claims the top spot? Let's begin with number 20. Number 20. Bloater paste sandwiches carried the unmistakable tang of the British coast into lunchboxes and tea rooms across the nation. The bloater, a whole herring lightly cold, smoked and salted until its flesh turned golden and pungent, was once so common that Great Yarmouth alone processed over 50 million fish annually in the 1920s. Housewives pounded the soft, oily flesh with butter and a pinch of mace, spreading the resulting paste onto slices of white bread, cut thin enough to see through. The smell announced itself before the tin was opened, dividing opinion as sharply as any lunch could. Children in seaside towns grew up with it, their fingers stained and fragrant, while city workers bought neat triangles wrapped in grease-proof paper from railway buffets. By the 1960s, the bloater trade had collapsed, undercut by frozen fish and changing palates. Paste jars gathered dust on grocers' shelves before disappearing entirely. Today, the bloater itself is nearly extinct as a commercial product, and the sandwiches that once fueled dockers and clerks alike survive only in the memories of those old enough to recall the sharp, smoky bite of a lunch that tasted unmistakably of the sea. Number 19. Gentleman's relish on toast stood as the quiet indulgence of the clubman's lunch, a paste so potent that a single jar could last months if spread with proper restraint. Invented in 1828 by John Osborne, the recipe remained a guarded secret, though anchovy butter and spices formed its salty, intensely savory heart. By the 1930s, it had become a fixture in London clubs, regimental messes, and the luncheon tables of the professional classes, served on thin fingers of hot buttered toast alongside a glass of dry sherry. The paste itself, pale and faintly pink, was applied sparingly, its punch far exceeding its appearance. Waiters in wood-paneled dining rooms knew the ritual well, presenting the small ceramic pot with a worn silver knife. For many, it was the taste of a certain kind of Englishness, restrained yet fiercely loyal to tradition. As the clubs emptied and formal lunches gave way to sandwiches at desks, gentleman's relish retreated to the margins. Supermarket shelves still carry it, but the ceremonial toast, the hushed dining room, and the long lunch it accompanied have faded into nostalgia. What remains is a relic of an era when lunch was an occasion, not an interruption. Mock turtle soup filled tureens across Victorian and Edwardian Britain. It offered the taste of luxury without the ruinous expense of the real thing. True turtle soup, made from sea turtles imported at great cost, had graced aristocratic tables since the 1700s. Clever cooks devised a substitute using a calf's head, simmered for hours until the gelatinous meat yielded a rich, unctuous broth. Recipes from Mrs. Beeton's 1861 cookbook demanded up to 12 hours of preparation. The head was split and cleaned, and the broth was flavored with sherry and forcemeat balls. Hotels and civic banquets served it as the prestigious first course, a signal that no expense had been spared, even when every expense had been. By the 1950s, tinned versions appeared, but the ritual of the fresh-made soup was already dying. The sight of a calf's head in the butcher's window, once unremarkable, became rare, then vanished entirely. Today, mock turtle soup survives mostly as a literary curiosity, remembered through Lewis Carroll's mournful character rather than any living lunch. Number 17. Rissoles arrived at the midday table as the thrifty answer to Monday's leftover meat, a dish that transformed scraps into something golden and crisp. Housewives minced the remains of Sunday's joint, mixed it with mashed potato, breadcrumbs, and a binding of egg, then shaped the mixture into neat patties for frying. In works canteens and school kitchens, rissoles appeared with reassuring regularity, their browned crusts hiding fillings that varied wildly depending on what the larder held. The Ministry of Food promoted rissoles during rationing, praising their economy and urging families to waste nothing. By the early 1950s, the British Meat Trades Journal recorded that rissoles accounted for a significant share of processed meat sales, a measure of their place in the national diet. Children prodded them with suspicion, never quite sure what lurked inside, while mothers defended their honor as honest, filling fare. As convenience foods and supermarket-ready meals swept through the 1970s, the homemade rissole retreated. Today, the word itself sounds old-fashioned, a relic of kitchens where nothing was thrown away and every scrap earned a second life on the plate. Savaloy and peas pudding anchored the working lunch in the industrial northeast, a pairing so ingrained that pie shops and market stalls built their trade around it. The Savaloy, a bright red, coarsely ground pork sausage, was sold hot from steaming vats, its skin splitting to reveal a peppery, garlicky filling. Alongside it came peas pudding, a dense golden paste of boiled split peas, butter, and seasoning, spread thick on bread or served in a slick beside the sausage. By the 1940s, Newcastle's Granger Market alone boasted half a dozen stalls dedicated to the combination, serving dockers, factory hands, and shoppers seeking a cheap, hot meal. The smell, a blend of pork fat, mustard, and the earthy sweetness of peas, hung in the covered arcades and drifted into the streets. Oral histories recall queues forming at noon, pennies exchanged for paper-wrapped parcels eaten standing in the cold. As the heavy industries closed and tastes shifted, the Savaloy stalls thinned out, their regulars aging and their recipes fading from daily life. Today, peas pudding lingers in a few specialty shops, but the ritual lunch it once anchored has become a memory, cherished by those who knew the warmth of a Savaloy on a winter's day. Oxtail soup simmered in kitchens and canteens as one of Britain's most beloved winter lunches, its deep, beefy richness a balm against the cold. Butchers sold oxtails cheaply, their bony segments yielding plenty of gelatin and flavor after hours of slow cooking with onions, carrots, and a splash of sherry or Madeira. By the 1930s, Heinz and Campbell's had introduced tinned versions, but the homemade article remained the standard in households that valued substance over speed. The soup arrived at the table mahogany dark, flecked with shreds of tender meat and glistening with fat, a meal in itself when served with crusty bread. Factory canteens ladled it out on cold days, knowing it would keep workers fortified through the afternoon shift. The ritual of cracking the bones and sucking out the marrow was considered impolite in some circles, essential in others. As supermarkets dropped oxtail from their displays and younger cooks turned to quicker recipes, the soup retreated from the mainstream. Tinned versions persisted but lost their audience. Today, oxtail soup is a rarity, its long cooking time and unfashionable cut marking it as a dish from an era when patience was a kitchen virtue. Number 14. Liver and onions filled pub dining rooms and works canteens with a smell that divided Britain down the middle. Thin slices of lamb's or calf's liver, dredged in seasoned flour and fried until just pink inside, were smothered in a heap of soft, caramelized onions and served with mashed potato or bread to soak up the rich, iron-tinged gravy. In the 1950s, liver was both cheap and plentiful, recommended by the Ministry of Health for its high iron content, especially for pregnant women and growing children. Pub menus from the era list liver and onions as a lunchtime staple, priced at 2 shillings or less, a filling meal for workers with limited time and money. The taste divided families. Some craved the mineral depth, while others recoiled at the texture, memories of school dinners souring the dish forever. Oral histories recall mothers insisting on clean plates, fathers praising liver as the food that built strong blood. As squeamishness grew and offal fell from fashion, liver and onions vanished from mainstream menus. Today, it survives in a handful of traditional pubs and nostalgic kitchens, a reminder that lunch once meant facing flavors that modern Britain has quietly set aside. Number 13. Potted shrimps graced the Edwardian luncheon table as a delicacy of the Lancashire coast. Tiny brown shrimps preserved in spiced butter and served cold with thin toast. Morecambe Bay's sands yielded the prized catch, harvested by horse-drawn nets and cooked within hours of landing. By the early 1900s, potted shrimps had become a fixture of first-class railway dining cars and seaside hotel lunches, their neat ramekins signaling quiet refinement. The process was simple but exacting. Shrimps picked by hand, warmed gently in clarified butter infused with mace and cayenne, then sealed under a layer of golden fat. The result was intensely savory, the butter carrying the sweet, briny essence of the shrimp into every bite. Luncheon menus from the 1930s list them alongside oysters and smoked salmon as a light first course, a world away from the heavy fare of canteen trays. As the shrimp fishery declined and labor costs rose, potted shrimps became a luxury, then a rarity. Today, a few producers keep the tradition alive, but the lunch where a ramekin of potted shrimps preceded a glass of hock and a view of the promenade belongs to another age entirely. Spam fritters carried the legacy of wartime thrift into school canteens and chip shops across post-war Britain. The oblong tins of pressed pork shoulder, shipped by the million from America during the war, had become so familiar that cooks found endless ways to stretch their contents. Sliced thick, dipped in batter, and fried until golden, spam fritters emerged crisp on the outside and soft, salty, and faintly sweet within. By 1960, school dinner registers listed them as a weekly staple, served alongside chips and beans to children who either loved or loathed the unmistakable taste of processed pork. Chip shops offered them as a cheap alternative to fish, their batter bubbling in the same oil, their price a few pence less. The smell, a blend of hot fat and canned meat, hung in the air of 1,000 high streets. As fresh meat became more affordable and tastes moved on, spam fritters faded from menus. The tins themselves remain, but the ritual of the battered slice, eaten hot from paper on a rainy lunchtime, has become a memory shared only by those who grew up when thrift was still a daily practice. Number 11. Kedgeree arrived at the British breakfast and lunch table as a legacy of the Raj, a spiced dish of smoked haddock, rice, and hard-boiled eggs that became a fixture of Edwardian sideboards. Country house menus from the 1900s list it among the morning dishes, served warm in silver chafing dishes. The rice, gently spiced with curry powder and turmeric, cradled flakes of golden haddock and wedges of egg, the whole finished with a scattering of parsley and a knob of butter. By the 1930s, Kedgeree had migrated to luncheon menus in hotels and clubs, a lighter alternative to heavier meat dishes. The dish spoke of empire, of officers returned from India with a taste for spice, and of kitchens willing to absorb the unfamiliar. As the memory of the Raj faded and British eating habits simplified, Kedgeree retreated to the margins. Today, it appears occasionally on brunch menus, but the luncheon Kedgeree, served in a panelled dining room with starched napkins, belongs to a Britain that no longer sets the table in quite the same way. Number 10. Tongue sandwiches held a place of quiet distinction on the cold lunch table, their thin slices of cured, pressed ox tongue offering a richness that no other meat could match. Butchers displayed whole tongues in their windows, their curved shapes unmistakable, ready to be boiled, skinned, and pressed into rounds for slicing. By the 1950s, tongue was a fixture of high tea and funeral spreads, its delicate, faintly gamey flavor paired with mustard and white bread. Sandwiches made from cold tongue appeared in packed lunches and railway buffets, a mark of households that valued tradition over novelty. The process of preparing a tongue was laborious. Hours of simmering, followed by the careful removal of the rough outer skin, but the result was prized for its meltingly tender texture. As supermarkets replaced family butchers and offal fell from fashion, tongue slipped quietly from the menu. The word itself became unfamiliar to younger generations, who never saw the whole article in the shop window or tasted the pressed slices at a family gathering. Today, tongue sandwiches are a rarity, their memory preserved only in the stories of those who recall when no cold spread was complete without them. Brown Windsor soup held court as the quintessential British soup of the mid-20th century, its murky depths appearing on hotel menus, railway dining cars, and works canteens from London to Edinburgh. The recipe, never quite fixed, combined beef or lamb with root vegetables, Madeira, and a generous measure of thickening, producing a soup so brown and substantial it bordered on stew. By the 1940s, Brown Windsor had become a byword for institutional catering, spooned into bowls in 1,000 British lunchrooms. Diners knew what to expect: warmth, saltiness, and a flavor that spoke of stock cubes and long simmering. Critics mocked it as the dullest of British dishes, while defenders praised its honest, filling nature. As lighter, continental soups arrived and tastes shifted, Brown Windsor disappeared from menus almost entirely. Today, it survives mostly as a punchline, a symbol of a Britain that valued substance over style and accepted the brown, the thick, and the hearty as the proper start to a midday meal. Number 8. Faggots and peas arrived steaming from the ovens of butchers' shops and factory canteens, a lunch that made virtue of the parts others discarded. Faggots, dense balls of minced pig's liver, heart, and belly, bound with breadcrumbs and wrapped in caul fat, were a specialty of the Midlands and South Wales, where every scrap of the pig found its purpose. By the 1950s, the Black Country alone boasted dozens of shops selling faggots by the half dozen, served with mushy peas and a slick of onion gravy. The smell, rich and faintly metallic, drifted through covered markets and terraced streets, drawing workers in search of a cheap, hot meal. Oral histories recall the pride of local recipes, each shop claiming its faggots were the best. As offal fell from fashion and supermarkets squeezed out traditional butchers, the faggot trade dwindled. Tinned and frozen versions appeared, but the ritual of the fresh-baked faggot, eaten hot from the counter, faded from daily life. Today, faggots survive in pockets of the Midlands, cherished by those who remember when lunch meant something substantial and unmistakably local. Number 7. Steak and kidney pudding sat at the heart of the British pub lunch, a suet-crusted dome that promised hours of slow steaming and a filling fit to silence any appetite. Cooks lined basins with suet pastry, packed them with chunks of beef and kidney, onion, and a splash of ale, then sealed the top and set them to steam for 4 hours or more. By the 1930s, the pudding was a staple of chop houses and hotel grills, its domed shape arriving at the table with ceremony. Diners broke through the crust to release a rush of fragrant steam, the gravy within thick and dark, the meat tender enough to yield to a spoon. The kidney, once an everyday ingredient, lent its distinctive slightly sharp flavor to the whole, dividing opinion as strongly as any filling could. As tastes changed and long cooking times fell out of fashion, pies replaced puddings, their pastry quicker to bake and easier to serve. Today, steak and kidney pudding is a rarity, found only in a handful of traditional kitchens where the art of sweet and slow steaming survives. Number 6. Meat paste sandwiches filled lunchboxes and picnic baskets across Britain. Their small glass jars a fixture in nearly every larder from the 1920s through the 1970s. Shipham's, founded in Chichester in 1750, led the trade, offering paste made from chicken, ham, beef, or crab, each spreadable enough for the thinnest bread. By 1955, surveys recorded that nearly half of British households kept a jar of meat paste on hand, ready for a quick sandwich when time or money ran short. The taste was salty, faintly sweet, and unmistakably processed, a concentrated hit of protein that stretched further than any cold cut. Children took paste sandwiches to school, wrapped in grease-proof paper, while office workers ate them at their desks. The ritual was simple: a thin scrape on white bread, perhaps a leaf of lettuce, and lunch was served. As supermarkets introduced sliced meats and tastes moved toward fresher ingredients, the paste jar lost its place. Today, a few brands linger on lower shelves, but the lunchtime sandwich built on a smear of potted meat has all but vanished. Brawn, also known as head cheese, sat on the cold lunch table as a testament to the British belief that nothing should go to waste. Butchers simmered a pig's head for hours, picked the meat from cheeks, jowls, and snout, then set it in its own jelly, seasoned with sage, mace, and pepper. By the 1940s, brawn was a staple of the cold meat counter, sold sliced or by the piece, its marbled appearance revealing layers of meat suspended in trembling aspic. Housewives served it with pickles and crusty bread, a filling lunch that cost pennies and required no cooking. The taste was mild, the texture a contrast between soft meat and firm jelly, and the sight of it divided opinion as surely as any dish could. Oral histories recall children recoiling at the wobble, while grandparents praised its honest, thrifty character. As supermarkets replaced family butchers and younger generations turned away from offal, brawn slipped quietly from the shelves. Today it survives in a handful of specialty shops, a relic of kitchens where a pig's head was a resource, not a curiosity. Number 4. Welsh rarebit held its place as the refined cousin of cheese on toast, a lunch that turned a few simple ingredients into something rich, savory, and deeply satisfying. Cooks melted strong cheddar with butter, mustard, Worcestershire sauce, and a splash of ale, spreading the mixture thick on slices of bread before grilling until the top bubbled and browned. By the 1920s, rarebit was a fixture of tea rooms and hotel lunches, served on its own or with a poached egg on top, the yolk breaking into the molten cheese. The dish spoke of a certain kind of British comfort, quick to prepare yet elevated enough for a club dining room or a country house luncheon. Cookery books from the era offered endless variations, adding tomato, anchovy, or a dusting of cayenne, each household claiming its recipe as the definitive version. As eating habits changed and simpler cheese on toast took its place, the careful ritual of the rarebit faded. Today it appears on a handful of pub menus, but the lunchtime rarebit, served with a knife and fork and a glass of stout, belongs to a Britain that once took its cheese very seriously indeed. Number 3. Deviled kidneys on toast arrived at the Edwardian breakfast and luncheon table as a dish of bold, fiery flavor, a challenge to timid palates and a reward for those who dared. Lamb's kidneys, split and trimmed of their core, were seared quickly in butter, then doused in a sauce of Worcestershire sauce, mustard, cayenne, and a splash of sherry. The whole was served atop thick slices of hot buttered toast. By the 1930s, deviled kidneys, had become a fixture of gentlemen's clubs and hotel grills, their pungent, spicy aroma announcing the dish before it reached the table. The ritual demanded speed. Kidneys overcooked turned rubbery, but served pink and yielding. They offered a richness unmatched by any other offal. Menus from the era list them alongside chops and cutlets, a reminder that lunch once meant more than a sandwich at the desk. As offal fell from fashion and the taste for bold, challenging flavors waned, deviled kidneys retreated from the mainstream. Today they survive in a handful of traditional kitchens, a memory of mornings when the sideboard groaned and lunch was a meal worth savoring, not simply swallowing. Number 2. Coronation chicken emerged in 1953 as the official dish of Queen Elizabeth II's coronation banquet, a cold lunch that captured the optimism of a new Elizabethan age. Constance Spry and Rosemary Hume devised the recipe, combining cold poached chicken with a creamy curry-spiced sauce enriched with apricot puree and a hint of wine. The dish was an instant sensation, its exotic notes speaking to a Briton eager to look outward after years of austerity. By the 1960s, coronation chicken had become a fixture of summer lunches, served in sandwiches, on salads, or spooned onto vol au vents at every church fete and garden party in the land. The sauce, golden and fragrant, clung to tender pieces of chicken, its sweetness balanced by the warmth of curry powder. For a generation, it was the taste of celebration, of weddings and jubilees and long afternoons on the lawn. As supermarkets mass-produced pale imitations and tastes moved on, the luster faded. Today, coronation chicken survives mostly in memory and on the occasional deli counter, a reminder of a Britain that once invented a dish fit for a queen. Number 1. The ploughman's lunch, in its original and truest form, stood as the perfect expression of British simplicity. A thick wedge of cheddar, a hunk of crusty bread, a pickled onion, and perhaps a smear of Branston pickle arranged without ceremony on a wooden board. By the 1960s, pubs across the country had adopted the ploughman's as their standard cold lunch, an easy meal for publicans and a satisfying one for workers, ramblers, and anyone seeking honest fare without fuss. The name evoked a pastoral ideal, a farmhand resting beneath an oak with his simple provisions, though the reality owed as much to the Milk Marketing Board's promotion of cheese as to any agricultural tradition. What mattered was the balance: sharp cheese against tangy pickle, soft bread against crunchy onion, and a pint of ale to wash it down. The ritual was democratic, served to city clerks and country farmers alike. As pub food grew elaborate and gastro menus replaced chalkboards, the authentic ploughman's faded from view. Today the name persists, but the boards groan with unnecessary additions, obscuring the purity of a lunch that once said everything with very little. Across all 20 entries, from the smoky tang of Bloater paste sandwiches to the quiet perfection of the ploughman's lunch, these forgotten British lunches tell the story of a nation's midday meal. Some, like Brawn and Faggots, remind us of thrift and the determination to waste nothing. Others, such as coronation chicken and potted shrimps, speak of celebration and refinement. The common thread is change, the slow drift of taste, convenience, and economics that swept these dishes from the table. Offal became unfashionable. Long cooking times gave way to speed. The pub lunch that took minutes to assemble was replaced by elaborate menus. In the end, these 20 lost lunches are more than recipes. They are the taste of a Britain that paused at midday, gathered around the table, and found in simple food a moment of connection and quiet satisfaction.